Dormail, home of a great night's sleep.
Everyone calls me Jonathan who knows me, and that's okay, and that's fine. And actually, I find it a bit weird when they go Tom, and you go, oh, you must have had to look on Wikipedia for that. Do you know what I mean?
I like the green.
Do you like the green?
Yes.
I like green.
I love
It's very
green.
dark, luscious green.
It is.
It's always
I can't
good.
go back any
Always gives
further.
us a
It's
fresh
a dress.
attention. It's a dress.
I love that.
It's lovely.
It's a luscious green. Luscious,
Yeah,
I call it.
beautiful.
Oh,
And
a
it hides
green
my
as
stomach.
well.
Yes, I've got an olive green shirt to match, darling.
Darling.
Oh, have you? I like olive.
Yes.
green.
And I've
That's
actually
another
made a
memo we
hat
could get.
today.
Another
I made
memo
a
we
hat
could get.
today, darling.
Oh, let's have a look.
Oh.
Oh,
What is it
Yeah.
made out of?
I've cheated it a bit because it's an old hat revamped, but I've put material and like a sort of it's like a Robin Hood look, darling, with the olive green.
I thought you were going to say I've got the dog basket and I've torn it apart and I've put a pair of stockings around the top of it.
Oh, well, that's a good idea for the next one.
For the next
It
one,
is.
there you go.
Thank you.
we've got to bring on our fantastic guest today, who is
Yes.
a great friend of the show anyway. His show, Jonathan Pye, is smashing it all over the country. And we caught up with him a couple of days ago, just for him to tell us what's going on. And he's very, very tired.
Hysterical.
Are you there? Tom Walker, are you alive?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
Are you awake?
I set my alarm specially. I'm in Liverpool today to play the Philharmonic, and it is the last show of 8 shows in the last 6 days.
Oh my
So
Wow.
I think my voice is telling you all you need to know. I am.
Okay, darling.
Husky,
I'm a-
husky and sexy.
I'm husky and sexy. I'll take that. Knackered is the other. Like you know when people kind of say, "Oh, I'm exhausted," and you go, "Oh, you're a bit tired."
Yes.
I really am.
Wow.
Like, but that's the touring life. I think the thing with this tour was because it's been rescheduled and rescheduled and rescheduled and rescheduled. When we, this reschedule, it's like you've got to honor all these gigs. All these people have paid for their tickets.
Yeah.
But you've got to get into that theatre when the theatre's free. I'm playing the London Philharmonic. It's been mad. But I did 2 shows back to back. I don't know if any of you. I know that Debbie's come to see one of the Pie shows, and they are not. It's not exactly an Alan Ayckbourn. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of. It's they're pretty full on, and to do 2 in a day
Wow.
was pretty amazing. But the thing about Salford, the Lowry, as I was there, I remembered when I was a student, I did a shift as a waiter in there. Only one. I never went back. It was so horrible. And then when Pie started, I played this little tiny studio room there. And then a year or 2 later, I played the little middle room, which is about
I know
300
that, yeah.
seaters. And then on Saturday, I did 2 sold out shows in
The
a
big
day,
one.
in the big one. And you go,
Wow.
the Lowry is kind of. I can see my career in there. No doubt in 10 years' time, I'll be back waiting tables. It will be over.
Well, darling,
But,
I think you have a plaque in each theatre to see your ascendance. That's what I think.
Yeah. It's a real, there was something quite magical about it. And I trained in Manchester, and therefore there's something quite nostalgic about going back to a city, and nostalgia is a real weird emotion, isn't it? It's when you really feel it, it's happy.
Very sad.
It's happy and sad in equal measure. You kind of go, there's this horrible sense of I can never go back, because you can't, because that's what life is.
Yes.
And yet you sort of have this beautiful funny memory of it, and therefore you kind of go, but I'm glad I was there. but I
Yeah.
can't go back.
With
I
this-
don't know.
with
It's a
this,
real strange
Yeah, with this
emotion.
rescheduled tour of yours, have you had to, as you've been rescheduled and rescheduled, have you had to change it all the time until you've got to this point now?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the same show. I mean, in the show, the plot of the show is that Pi has said something really unsavoury on air and has been fired for it, and rightly so.
No.
What he ends up doing, you wouldn't really get away with it. So he accepts his fate, certainly.
Yeah.
But it's about how that happened and the pressures he was under, and how he
Yes.
would prefer to live in a world where perhaps redemption and forgiveness were possible, and it kind of isn't anymore. But of course, the previous show on a political level was all about Trump, and it was all about Brexit, and Trump's gone, although you know the fallout from him will be felt for years, and Brexit's it's still here, but it's gone. It's not the hot potato. And again, the out, you know, the fallout from Brexit will be felt for generations. But again, now you just go, it's a bit boring, isn't it? So this show is more about Pi looking back over the last 2 years, really. And what's interesting about that is whatever your political take on lockdown or vaccines or face masks, or you know, you can be really one extreme or the other, can't you? You can be totally anti-vax and I'm not wearing a mask in Tesco, or you can be and rightly so, genuinely scared of getting this disease. But whatever your take on that is, we all had a lived experience, didn't we? We all were trapped in our living rooms for a year, and therefore, even if you disagree fundamentally with Pi's politics and you're a Tory voting Leave voter, which he happens not to be, you can relate to a lot of what he's talking about, because he went a bit mad. And the way I see it is, if you didn't go a bit mad during lockdown, you're mad. You know what I mean?
We've all
Nice
done that.
one.
Yeah.
Well said,
100%.
actually. I like
100%.
that.
And I think actually it's only really now, or certainly this year, I think most of 2020, I think a lot of people thought, I kind of got this handled. It's okay. And I think it's only now we're kind of licking our wounds and going, oh, wow. And also maybe we all needed a break from the real world, but now we're going back into the real world. You go, God, the real world's awful.
Yeah, we don't
Do you know
want
what I
it now.
mean?
We don't want it.
Yeah.
It's so
Exactly.
true,
How long
though,
does your tour last? Is it going all the way through into next year as well? What's happening?
No, it's. I mean, I'm over the halfway hump, so I get to the end of October, and that's that. So this week was always the week where I was going, oh my God, because it's seven days in a row with 8 shows, two on Saturday. Once I get over tonight, then things start to ease a little bit, and I feel like I'm out the other end. But I'm doing a little run of London shows at the Bloomsbury Theatre, which is I've always wanted.
You.
Yes.
Well, I know you are. I
can't
can't
wait.
wait. I can't wait for you to come and see me. And in my head, I'm still an actor, and therefore I suppose it might be a bit self-indulgent of me, but I wanted to run at the same theatre for a few weeks. You know, where you come to work, you sign in at the stage door,
Natural.
you do your job, you go home. Rather,
There you go. Absolutely.
it's weird being on tour, especially for doing. I mean, I think if you're doing a play for a week or two in a theatre, very quickly you get used to it, right? But I'm there for one night, so you've got to change the whole show. You know, your sight lines, who you're looking at, where the audience is, how
And
the
also,
lights
it's
are.
just you.
Yeah.
It's not like you've got a whole company to share it with. It's you.
It's just me, and you walk out there, and it can be quite. It's quite. I mean, I've got much used to it, and I enjoy it much more. And I'm far more relaxed on stage than I was. But you know, it's rare for actors. There are one man or one woman plays, then they are out there. But generally, you're with a company, even if it's just a two-hander.
Yeah.
And you can, you know that feeling when you know you're going to drop a line.
Yes.
And you normally get that. you get that, but you get that feeling about 30 seconds before you drop it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I
Oh,
do,
yeah.
Sometimes it
The
can just
white
go.
noise. The white
But
noise.
sometimes in your head, you're doing the speech and you go, in about 30 seconds, I think I'm in
I'm not
trouble.
going to be able to remember that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what you've got other people on stage who are
To help.
picking up on it. They can
Yeah.
pick up on it and they go, oh, I think Roger's in trouble here.
Yeah.
And you can support him through that eggy moment.
I always say
and-
when I meet a company that when I say to them, darlings, when you see this face, it means you say it because I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And when,
You don't
and
have
when
that.
you,
You
and
don't
when
have
you
that.
come off the stage, you've only got you to blame and you to argue with.
Yeah,
True.
no, absolutely. And therefore I've got much better at not giving myself a hard time. Like
Yeah.
last night, I was so tired going on stage last night. I was running on fumes, which actually sometimes is a good show because
Yeah.
you're so relaxed. You can really perform it without having
Yeah.
to give it too much. But there
Do
was
you
this
have
one.
a go-to when you forget things? Do you have a go-to line to pull you back in? Do you have a couple of things to think, I can pull this in now?
Well, last night I was in New Brighton, which is just next to Liverpool, and I was in the middle of a really long, little bit of patter, as Pi has, that quite complicated patter, and I just went, and I thought, how do I get out of this? And I went, and you just got to you could admit it, and I just went, I've got no idea where I am, and then I looked at the audience and I went, New Brighton, you have broken me. And
Great.
they loved it, got a big round of applause, and the round of applause gave me a couple of seconds to go, find your feet, find where you are, and off you go again,
Yeah.
But what I would say is I always find a reason to have that script on the stage. So
Yes.
there's always a reason, and it's like, so the conceit of this show is that he's doing a lecture. So there's a lectern there, and very early on, I just turn a page and go, right, where to begin, and it forgives a lot. I'm obsessed with, probably a bit autistic, I think, because I'm obsessed with sort of numbers, and it's an 11,000 word monologue.
Wow.
It's slightly bigger than Leah. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that is big.
Well, Ricky Gervais has that lectern, doesn't he, on the stage?
Yeah. And you
he
know
has his
exactly why it's
script
there.
In it.
Yeah,
And he always goes back.
he goes there to have a slug of beer. It's nice just to check where you're at, and I think
Exactly.
audiences forgive it, and I think especially because I make a thing. I mean, the other day I made a mistake, and I went, I don't know why I've made that mistake. I got the script just there, and then it gets a laugh, and you just if you don't try and hide it, they forgive it,
Yeah.
But I think it's really important. If I was in real trouble, because it is a complicated trick, and you know the way Pi talks, it's very, no one talks like he does, really, in real life. We'd all love to be able to insult the woman in Tesco's with this wonderful convoluted, do you know what I mean? But it always turns out you go, oh, you fat cow, and you just walk out, and it doesn't quite have the same impact, so yeah, it's quite complicated language, I suppose. So I think me having it there is the comfort blanket. I think if I didn't walk on without that there, I wouldn't be able to perform as well, because I'd be going, what if I forget it? What if I forget it?
Yeah.
And you go, well, what if I
He's
forget it? I
he's
walk
su- he's
over
such
there
an-
and I go, I know where I am. So yeah.
Yeah.
He's such an incredible character that people don't believe he's not you, do they?
No, I mean, and in some respects, I get it. I mean, everyone calls me Jonathan, who knows me, and that's okay, and that's fine. And actually, I find it a bit weird when they go, Tom, and you go, oh, you must have had to look on Wikipedia for that. Do you know what I mean? You must be a bit of a fan, and it's fine, but it always sort of freaks me out. But there are a couple of things in this show where I really wanted Pi to have had an extreme version of lockdown. So what I mean by that is, so in it, he didn't see his son for lockdown because he's a divorcee, and his son lives with with his wife, as he puts it, my wife and her new husband. And so they didn't see each other for 12 months. And that's a fairly extreme thing. And in previous shows, I had alluded to the idea that my dad had died, just because there was a joke I had to make about what it was in the last show. It was a joke about how my dad used to call BAME people of colour, and coloured people is what he used to refer them to. And I'd go, Dad, you can't say that, it's people of colour. And it was this idea about he's not racist for not having been able to catch up to the way you're supposed to say it, because 20, 30 years ago on TV, that's what you did refer to people of colour as. And it was sort of just a little joke, but I realised that joke was a bit eggy because people don't want to talk about that thing. So what I actually did with that joke is I said, my dad, bless him, I mean, he died a couple of years ago, but right up to the end, he was still referring to blah, 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 blah. And me having just killed him off forgave him that transgression. It forgave him that transgression, and therefore the joke suddenly worked. Because you go, oh, he died a couple of years ago, and everyone goes, oh, but he did used to say this racist thing by these days standards, and then the joke really flew. So anyway, this time round, I wanted Pi to have had a really bad lockdown. So I suddenly decided, oh, my dad died over lockdown. And then I do this set piece about how awful a Zoom funeral is. I mean, how out of all the funerals you could possibly have, a Zoom funeral is the bleakest.
Yeah.
And I sort of, even compared to a 3-hour Catholic funeral mass with a burial at the end of it, that's got nothing on the bleakness of a Zoom funeral. Anyway, of course, I come off stage and occasionally bump into people, and they're like, I'm really sorry about your dad. And I'm like, I don't really know how to approach it, and I had to ring my dad came to watch the show in Bath, and I rang him up and I said, Dad, I killed you off last time. Well, this time I'm talking about your funeral. So it's just gonna be weird for both of us. Do you know what I mean? And obviously in the pub afterwards, everyone's going, you're his dad, but I thought you were,
Oh no.
So I sort of so a lot of that fiction isn't true, but a lot of the sentiments of what I'm saying and a lot of the politics of what I'm saying, I agree with. And there are a few things that I'm not sure I do agree with. I do a whole section about tearing down of statues and that sort of revisionist revising history thing that we're kind of in at the moment. And Pi puts up a very well thought out argument about the idea basically being, I'm not really sure what it achieves. And what's really interesting, in Bath, I said, so when Edward Colston's statue ended up at the bottom of Bristol Harbour, that's how the set piece works. Half the audience, because they live nearby, went, way, and I went, oh, not sure you're going to like this bit, which sort of got a bit of a laugh. But then he puts across his argument in very Pi terms, so it's quite funny, but it's a definite argument. And actually, by the end, I would say 95% of the audience were clapping, in spite of their opinion, in a way. It was kind of like going, I can't fault that. I'm going to have to go home and revise my thinking on it, which for me is Pi at his best. When he's not, I mean, he is one of these people that goes, I'm right and you're wrong. That's his character. But when he can make you go, you think he's saying something you fundamentally disagree with, but then you walk out going, oh, I don't know if I'm right. And then you've got to rethink about it, because I think we're so quick these days to just go, well, that's wrong because I read it in The Guardian. And you go, no, think. Just think. And if you come to the same conclusion, then good for you. But just have a think about it first.
Yeah, so tell us where you are next. We know that you're coming to London. The Wonderbirds are coming to see you, so we're going to put a nice thing on our website and on the show.
Oh, lovely! Thank you.
But where are you next, or are you?
Well, we've got everywhere? A few left. A lot of them are sold out, but there's sort of returns coming. I've got Oxford, Basingstoke, several in London, Poole for some reason, which not for some reason.
I love the Poole.
Lovely
Pool's
Poole.
lovely.
And then I think that's it. St Albans I'm coming to, and Norwich, which I know is sold out, but I think, you know, again, if you're lucky, every other day there's a couple of tickets pop up and then they go.
Yeah.
Norwich, weirdly, I've only played there once or twice, and I'd never been to Norwich before. And because of the Alan Partridge sort of connection, I always thought Norwich would be a bit of a dump.
Oh,
And
it's
not.
lovely.
Oh, no,
It's
it's
beautiful.
lovely.
And the audiences are great. It's a beautiful theatre. And and I tell you where I have been, which I just need to. Have you ever been to the Stockport Plaza?
Yes.
So
isn't it beautiful?
it's incredible,
I
and
know.
all the way down my list of I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there, and on in the middle of the thing I was like, the Stockport Plaza. Oh my
It's
God,
absolutely amazing.
how awful can this place be? The Stockport Plaza. You walk in there, it is. You are walking back into, I imagine it's the 20s, maybe the 30s, might be a little bit later, the architecture.
Yeah, maybe.
And it has been redone you are walking into a different era. This beautiful Art Deco, possibly a tiny bit later than that, theatre with with the organ that comes up at the start. And
Wow.
of all the it's always the ones I'm going, oh God, I'm dreading this one tonight. And you walked in there and it was absolutely incredible. So so that's another one I want to revisit.
Oh, well, he's gone.
He's gone.
I think he's probably had enough of us, don't you? I mean, four
Yes.
women, he's in bed, been up all night, four women going, damn it.
Anyway,
got more
we're
shows to
all
do.
going to go and see him in London anyway.
Yes.
That's
We should
right.
be there at the Bloomsbury Theatre one night, and it's all over it'll be on our website, it's on the blurb of the show, everywhere. So
come and join us. Come and be with us.
Yes.
Come and be with
Hang
us.
out with the Wonderbirds.
Come and see us when we go and see Tom at the Bloomsbury Theatre, which is, if you look online, I think it's from the 18th or 17th, I think it's there, but at the Bloomsbury Theatre in London. We shall be there. We are going, all of us are going to see him, and we're great friends. And thanks, Tom, wherever you are. He's disappeared.
Yes, thanks, Tom. He'll be back in bed.
Needs a drink, I should think.
We will.
Bye,
So
darling.
we'll see you on Friday with the amazing, incredible Susie Quattro.
Susie Quattro.
Yay.
See you Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
Dormail, home of a great night's sleep.